Well, hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Sweeter After Difficulty podcast. I am Randy Highsmith, and I have with me today my two regular guests, Jordan Lopez and Chris Anderson. Boys, how you guys doing today?
Hey, Randy.
Yeah.
Doing pretty well. It's
All
Saturday.
right. All right. Well, it's good to see you guys as always. Thank you for being here. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We do this every Friday at noon Pacific on Spotify and Rumble. You can check us out on Instagram and all those things, but give us a like and a subscribe, set your notifications. You will know every time we release a new episode. But today, if it's your first time joining us, we have an awesome show for you. Well, whether you're joining us for the first time or whether you're a repeat customer, we have an awesome show for you. We picked a great quote for today. So you know how we do it. We're going to kick it over to the quote master general himself, Jordan Lopez, to get us started with the quote for the day. Jordan, what do you got for us?
All right. Quote today is from Albert Einstein. It is, "In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity."
Yeah, going straight for the Einstein quote today.
Yeah.
And hard to even read this one without, your mind just spinning off in 1,000 directions. But, as we do, we're going to break it down. We're going to dive deep into it. So for those of you who may not have been paying attention or just tuning in, Jordan, one more time with that quote, and then we will jump into this thing.
Sure. In the middle of opportunity or in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity.
Yeah, so let's do this. Obviously, we've got difficulty, right? And we've got opportunity. So I think this is going to be a really cool set of words to kind of dive into, and difficulty, especially being, one of the key themes of this podcast. Uh, but before we dive into, my feelings on it or your feelings on it, any initial reactions to the quote itself? Like what immediately presents itself to you?
I think the first thing for me was that I actually had like a little bit of an uncomfortable reaction to it in the sense of like if we take it on its face in the sense that like opportunity is often in the middle of difficulty, the people who have the ability to say that are those that made it through the difficulty. Like those are from who we are hearing. And it's like, well, what about like the countless people that like didn't make it out of the difficulty? Would they have the same perspective? So that was like my first question. And I'm like, I don't know if there's like a good answer to that, you know?
No, but it's
Like,
a great initial thought, right? I mean, it's definitely worth exploring the idea. I think that's definitely one of the roads that this will naturally go down.
Yeah,
What
it's
about
said
you?
by somebody who knows kind of a
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. That's right. And that's kind of the initial feeling I got too. You know, because who views those things as opportunities in the midst of difficulty?
right.
Right. Like it's hard to kind of interpret it that way. So let's talk a little bit though about difficulty, if we could. What what kind of things difficulty seems to be such a broad word, right? It
Mhm.
it or at least its usage seems broad. What do you think is the most appropriate if we could nail it down, like if we could all try to get on the same page about what we think difficulty actually is, what do you think the most crucial essence of difficulty is?
I think it's so subjective though, right? To each person. Like one person's difficulty might not be another person's difficulty, right? And
In terms of what we
hardship.
consider difficult
Yeah,
or
I think difficulty might be a broad term, like hardship might be a better word.
well,
Like,
so what if we peel it back, right?
yeah.
What if we get less granular and less specific about what things could be considered difficulty? And what if we just think of the concept of difficulty itself?
Hmm.
Because I think probably you illustrated perfectly where we end up having a hard time agreeing on things, right? Is because we all go, well, difficulty means this to me, and you say difficulty means this to me, and I go, well, that's easy, and you're like, well, your thing is easy, like like whatever, right? Like it's like I couldn't jump out there and jump on a pull-up bar and do 20 pull-ups right now, but you probably could pretty easily, right? And then you go, well, yeah, it's easy because I put the work in, but and I'm like, well, it's hard because I haven't,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
uh
Yeah.
so if we get less specific about what we individually think is difficult, what about just the concept of difficulty? Where can we find a baseline that we all, sort of agree on of the concept.
I think for me, like we're trying to bust apart like difficulty. I think if you can define difficulty as things going uh in a different direction than you expected, it naturally creates a negative reaction of some kind. So when things run askew of your expectations, I think in that difficulty arises, certainly at various levels. And if we go
What is that?
there, yeah.
What is that doing? Like, what is so if right if it's a contrary to your expectations
Mhm.
on a like a simple foundational level, what is it that makes that difficult?
Well, I think because your expectations are usually the roadmap for how you want to achieve something or do something, right? So in order to plan ahead, you must expect a certain number of things to happen. You have to deduce, all right, well, if I'm going to go drive from here to the grocery store, I am expecting to have the street be open. I'm expecting the light to turn green at some point. I am expecting the store to be open. And then you get out on the road, and all of a sudden, your primary turn is blocked off for road work. And then that causes you to take a longer loop. And then you get there, and it's like, well, you've only got 10 minutes instead of the hour that you thought you had. So, like, those little things compound difficulty. So, I think, like, simply put, right, you're expecting for certain things to happen in order for you to get from point A to point B. And when the circumstances change and those expectations are no longer real, it creates this negativity in your person.
Yeah. What do you think, Jordan? You have any different thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think that it's like not living up to expectations or the things that not being what you expect them to be is a good way to kind of measure difficulty. And then when you have when it happens, right? Like if you're pessimistic, you kind of see it coming, or if you're optimistic, you don't see it coming.
I
And then
love that.
Sure.
yeah, and then you're forced to kind of deal with those difficulties. And
Because
what's
there is
interesting to me,
because there's a lot of perception and mindset involved in
yeah,
it too, right? I mean, that's
yeah.
okay.
And then it's like, and then when you kind of see the difficulty coming, you're like, all right, I want this difficulty to start so I can get going with it and get past it versus waiting for the difficulty to come and you're kind of stuck in this holding pattern of
Well,
childbirth, right? Like,
certainly that's how you would handle it. Like I would dare to say that probably not everybody is like, okay, problems are coming, bring the pain, like can we just hurry up and get this thing started?
well,
Like
yeah, and for me too, it's like so much. And I mean, you talked about this previously. Like, pain is measurable and pain is understandable. And once you kind of start, you're like, okay, I know this. I can deal with this as long as this doesn't get much worse. Or if it does get worse, all right, well, this is the new standard. It's like the new normal, right? It's the metrics, living life with metrics kind of a thing. And it's just that unknown. The unknown is the worst part oftentimes.
Yeah.
so okay. So hearing what you both said, if we scale it even a little bit more basic, would you agree that difficulty is measured in resistance? So in other words,
Yeah, I'd say
the
so. Yeah,
more
again, a
the more
weightlifting
res- the
perspective,
more resistance you have,
more difficult.
right,
Yeah,
the more difficult you would consider something. So
yeah.
for Chris, right, you may have expectations of, I'm going to grab my keys where I always leave them. I'm going to walk out to the car. The car is going to start because I put gas in
Right.
it and it still runs. I'm
Right.
going to take my normal route. I'm going to get there. And then the more of those things that don't go the way you think they're
Yeah.
going to go is an increasing level of resistance towards, like
That. Yep.
that easy thing that you
Yeah.
had set out to do now all of a sudden is incredibly complicated.
Yeah.
Okay,
Or
so okay,
we're
go ahead.
all old enough to remember like driving without a GPS in your truck, right? And
oh my
printing the
God,
maps off.
thumbing through your MapQuest sheets.
Yes.
Even before that, right? We had the Thomas guide, so you're like
Yes.
breaking it out and like
Yeah.
trying to find. Oh my gosh!
I remember
Sorry,
selling.
kids.
I remember selling my first car, and the only thing I cared about taking out of the car was the Thomas guide.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the one thing I can't lose.
At least I'll know how to get home, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's funny.
We're all old kids.
We're all old. Yeah, this is what you're dealing with here. Okay, because I like that, and I think it sets a good baseline, right? No matter what our expectations are, no matter what or our mindset, no matter what we consider the way something should go, the more resistance that gets applied to that would be the more difficult that we would consider the situation. I think that's a solid baseline, right?
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay. So then there's opportunity. And I think the word opportunity is a funny one because I think it's optimistic in nature, right? Like Jordan, you were talking about optimism versus pessimism, right? Uh the the pessimistic side of that would be, in the middle of difficulty, you find the greatest obstacles. Right? Like
Yeah.
because then you're like, well, it's already hard and I'm getting another curveball thrown at me and now it's even harder, you know.
Yeah.
Um we use the word opportunities though to put a positive spin on it, like, oh well, this is an opportunity to to test myself or to gain some perspective or to grow or whatever, right? Why? So do you think that the ability to put a positive or negative spin on it is directly proportionate to how much resistance we're experiencing, or do you think that's also just personal and situational?
I think it's personal and situational. Like we've all gone through like a Shark Tank, right? And so you can have a positive spin on that, or you can have a negative spin on that. You can just be like, "Fuck it, bring it!" Like, and not be like,
Right.
"I'm gonna learn from this," but just be like, "Bite down your mouthpiece," and then
I'm
look at the
gonna
next person and be like,
learn.
"You're next." I like, do your
Yeah,
work,
yeah,
and that's what like that's why I roll with Jimmy. It's just like do your worst. Like, there's no like I gotta learn from this. Like, no, I
Yeah.
just
yeah.
do it,
Yeah.
and it's just and then the game starts, and then you're immediately being punished, right? And so I think it's I think it's when you get to a point in life, like when you've been like you get scoured so much to a point where there's nothing left, and you're just like, whatever, bring it. Like it's an interesting kind of feeling. Because like there's things going on right now for me in my life where it's like it's a scouring for sure, and you're just like the next thing happens and the next thing happens, and it gets to a point you're just like, fuck it, like whatever comes, and I can handle that too. Like in oh that's happening now, okay cool, or that's disappearing now, all right cool, like I'll be here tomorrow. Like, you know what I mean? And it's just this warrior, not war. I hate saying like that. Oh, it's a warrior mentality. Like, no, it's just a bite down your mouthpiece, another step forward, another step forward. And it's just it is what it is, right? And you can be happy about it. Like, oh well, 6 months from now, I'll be a better person and I'll learn from this and I'll overcome this kind of thing. But like in the
Right.
moment, you're like, well, let's do it.
Yeah, the looking back, right, hindsight is
Yeah.
2020 type concept, realizing that it was an opportunity and reclassifying it
Yeah.
later, so that it
Changing
can
your
benefit
memories.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
rewriting history a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I think of a quote, from The Count of Monte Cristo, and I'm probably gonna butcher it, right? But the chief inspector is talking to his father, who's a Napoleon sympathizer, and he tells his dad that his dad's a traitor. Napoleon's been exiled, and his dad says, "In the end, treason is a matter of dates, right? I'll be the patriot, and you'll be the traitor when Napoleon returns." And I
Yeah.
think I think that the mindset of that is I think that's like such a wise line that is just like a throwaway line in the story. Like you don't probably I don't even know if you guys recognize the line
Yeah.
from just hearing it because it's such a one-off little thing, but I think that's powerful. I think time, obviously, we had a whole episode where we talked a lot extensively about time, but it's something about being under active resistance, right?
Mhm.
So, and to take it the jujitsu route, right? It's like someone's on top putting pressure on, and it's painful and it's horrible, and you do it for as long as you can, and then you feel yourself getting to the point where you're like, I just need to tap to this, right? I just need to get out of here.
No, never.
Never tap to side control.
I'm
No,
not
man.
talking to anybody on this show. I'm just saying in
No, 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 no.
general.
None of us have ever done that. It's funny though.
Yeah.
It's funny that that's the example. I was working with a white belt on Wednesday night, and the move that we were training were side control escapes,
Yeah.
and it's just your basic set up your frames, bridge hard in, shrimp away, like everything that a white belt should learn as their first escape. And then we did live positional drilling afterwards, and he kept committing his weight so far into me that in a 60-second period, I rolled him over probably like 6 times.
Attaboy.
Nice.
And he just kept on looking at me like super confused because he's squeezing, he's doing everything he can.
Yeah.
And, Randy, you use the analogy of like when you're under pressure in the bottom in that position, it's difficult.
Yeah.
And kind of the point where I'm going with this is like, okay, but what created the opportunity? Like, what was the thing that caused it? And I don't know that necessarily the difficulty created the opportunity, but it created the filter for me to
Mhm.
recognize the opportunity. In
Yeah.
other words, because it was getting difficult, he was squeezing so hard, I recognized that he was connected to me and a little bit off base with where his center of gravity was. Oh, well, that's the filter that allowed me to recognize like he's so far committed, I can just turn and off he goes. And that was like the point in the drill. We're like, well, how did you do that? And it's like, I didn't really do anything. I just survived the difficulty until I realized what was happening. And then that was what allowed me to get out relatively easily.
So that story, like, so instantly my reaction to that is, well, that's a story about difficulty for someone else,
Mhm.
right?
Oh,
Like,
interesting.
Yeah.
like you weren't actually in a difficult position. You were actually in a comfortable position, waiting to capitalize on a wrong
Yeah.
move, right? Or on
Yeah.
somebody's
Yeah.
somebody's lack of knowledge. The pressure that he was putting on you was actually putting more pressure on himself,
Counteraction.
right?
Yeah.
Than it was
Yeah.
you. But I 100% think that's the right context. I just think that
Yeah.
it was the
It's
other
it's
person
from the
feeling.
other perspective. Oh, that's
Yeah, yeah,
fascinating.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that's like my story with Jimmy, right? So everybody, and he'll be on the show, and it'll all make sense when Jimmy comes on the show.
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
But he has this move that he does, and I remember watching him do it to several people, where he gets into a scarf position, which is you're laying on your back, he's laying with his arm under your head, and he's picking your head up and driving his lat muscle into your ribs, and he's folding you over his ribs, or folding his lat over your ribs. And I would watch him tap people to that. And I remember thinking, like, he's not going to do it. I'm not going to tap to that. Like, I don't care. He'll break my ribs before I tap to that. Cause he would get up and be like, you get one of those. And to the person who taps the
Yeah.
pressure or taps the pain, and the person, everybody had like shame on their face and they'd walk away. And it's like, I'm not doing that. And so obviously my time came and he did the same stupid move to me. And I remember sitting there just getting folded in half by him and like looking at him and whispering, I'm like, fuck you, I'm not tapping. And I remember telling him that and he laughed and he let me up. And then it just abused me the last 5 minutes.
Right.
But
Sure.
afterward, he's like, good, don't ever tap to that. And that's my claim to fame with him. He'll go around and tell people that story all the time. I told Jimmy
Yeah.
to fuck off as he was trying to break my ribs.
As he had you completely dominated.
Yeah, and just looked at him and he like winked at me and laughed, and it's just like, and that's the thing. It's like in that moment you're like, I refuse to tap to this. I don't care how bad it hurts. You break my ribs, I'm not tapping to this. And it's just that. And I
And
think
what's
that's good. The quote too, Randy, is for me what says is the word in the middle. Like it's the metric of time where you're like, you can't be before. There's opportunity before it or after it, but you have to be in the middle of it to find your opportunity.
That is true, right? You're right. The quote does
Bell
say that,
curve.
and that's an
Yeah.
important distinction, because we did talk a little bit about like looking back and like rewriting history a little bit, and
Mhm.
and not that there's anything wrong with that, right? Like reevaluating a bad thing and spinning it into a ultimately a good thing over the long term. But I think that's too. I think it ties in closely because so try to imagine you're back there under him in that position right there,
Yeah.
right? Like he's pulling your head up. He's heavy lat. You're carrying all 270 pounds of him on your rib cage. He's
Yeah.
pulling you into him. His whole weight's smashing you down. And you know that you could tap and in a second you'll feel better physically, but you also know that your mind would feel worse, right? Like you would feel like you failed that situation. And I think that is the opportunity, right? Like I think that is what he means in this context. You had a choice to quit or learn something about yourself, right? And you learned something about yourself instead. You were able to turn that into an opportunity instead of an unscalable hurdle. Um, what can you think of in your mind besides just pure stubborn will?
Mhm.
Were there any other thoughts that were like, was there a battle in your head at all? Like what when you went back and forth in your
Yeah.
mind,
What's
what
wrong
was
with you?
what was that? Yeah, I'd like to evaluate your brain for that internal dialogue. Were you thinking?
Yeah, I think for me, regret is a big deal. And I hate regret. And I hate like the not finishing something you start and not like running through the finish line and not, and you know what I mean? Like, and then with that situation, like there is so much opportunity for regret. Like I took the easy route out. I got out easy, blah, blah, blah. Like, and I hate that. And that bothers me usually oftentimes more than lots of things in life where it's like, I don't want to look back and be like, ah, I chickened out or I took the easy route out
Mhm.
because it hurt.
Right.
Like what's, and I don't know, like we're all probably
The
a little bit
regret,
masochistic, but
the
like
regret
pain
is
is not a, when I was racing mountain bikes, like it was like weather and pain are not going to determine if I do or don't do something. Like if it's 110 degrees outside, 115, I'm still going to ride. Or if I'm a little bit injured right now, I'm still going to ride. Like pain is not a deterrent. And I don't know. It's the pain of regret is a lot more than the pain of discomfort in the moment, for me at least.
well, like borrow Randy's analogy, the regret offers more resistance than the pain does.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And that, I mean, when you spin it that way, Chris, which I think is like totally appropriate, what's the like what are the ramifications of that?
Yeah.
Right? Like because I mean from a self-preservation standpoint, getting out from under that crushing weight and not breaking your ribs is probably more beneficial to your health,
Yeah.
you know,
In the
Well,
short and
physical
long
health
term.
though.
in the short and long term.
Yeah. But though,
Yeah, exactly.
when you say health though, is it physical health or mental health?
No, I mean perfect point, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
You
right where it
know,
should go.
100%. a hundred
And I
percent.
think like the cool thing is like looking at it that way is that like you can take life as like a system with variant components of variant sizes that offer variant levels of value, or you can take each thing independently on its own. Pain is just a thing that requires its own set of systems to address. Regret is its own thing that requires its own set of systems to address, and they're never the same. Or like I think, we may be somewhat similar in this is like I think in a systems level view too. And to me, I would rather have other people respect me for the effort than for quitting when I'm not going to win, right? Like if I quit when I'm only going to win and people only see me in those times when I haven't quit, that to me is less value than like losing all the time but getting respect for having tried, right? And like I think that took me a really really long time to get to, but when you say like, oh yeah, the pain of regret is worse than physical pain, like yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I've told you both that you're gonna have to fucking kill me when I'm dead to rights for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
same reason, you know?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like I'm still gonna try. I know I'm not gonna
Well,
win,
yeah,
you know?
and that's rolling with Jimmy. Right, right. And I rolled with him before I moved out here. There were 6 years that he and I would roll, and I would watch people duck him intentionally. And I'd be sitting next to him and be like, people look at him and look away and be like, let's roll. And he and I would do multiple rounds back to back because nobody would roll with him.
Nobody would go to him.
Yeah. And I've never seen him lose a round. I've never seen him lose a minute in a round. And he's beat the life out of me every time we roll. And it's a foregone conclusion that I'm gonna get my ass kicked right now, but I'm still not gonna shy away from it because it's the medicine that I need, right? And you duck him, it's like, yeah, it might be comfortable and convenient, but you're also doing yourself a huge disservice by ducking those things that are you're gonna lose.
Maybe that was the recognition of the opportunity as well. Like
Yeah,
perhaps you could look at it from another perspective of saying like, yeah, regret is more painful than the physical pain, but I think what's the opportunity?
yeah,
Perhaps the opportunity in that example is earning the respect of an elite jujitsu practitioner and of an elite character guy. And by having that respect and having it be mutual, the value of that is far greater than the physical pain that you might get.
So both of you used the example of expectation in the beginning when we first started talking about this. So what do you think then is tempering expectations ahead of time a reasonable way to sort of limit the amount of resistance that we're going to get? Not whether that's the best way to do it or not, but because we're talking about unmet expectations, right? So in the instance of, making eye contact with Jimmy on the mat, to your point, right? If I go in with the expectation, like, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to try my hardest, and who knows, maybe I'll hit Jimmy with something.
Mhm.
Your expectations are already not in the realm of the real world, right?
Yeah.
I too will win the lottery one day.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm like,
Gotta play.
unless
Yeah.
Jimmy physically dies while we're rolling, and then I have to pray that he's not on top, right? It's this probably so me, making eye contact, walking over. My expectation is I'm going to try my best to play my best jujitsu. I'm going to not quit. I'm going to not tap just because something's uncomfortable. I'm going to try to utilize the things that Jimmy tells me. I'm going to pay attention. And when he talks to me after the match, I'm going to pay attention, right? And I'm going to absorb that stuff. And then you find that like the opportunities present themselves all along the way, right? They become more obvious if you've tempered your expectations properly. Do you agree with that concept?
Yeah,
Yeah.
wholeheartedly. Because
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
It's like living in reality on reality's terms, right?
Yeah. Not writing it in the moment, right? But just looking it in the face and going, here is the reality. Historically and statistically, no one has won a single minute of a round with Jimmy since I've known him for the past 8 years. The likelihood that me in my infancy in jujitsu is going to penetrate that level of knowledge, skill, strength, and application is fairly much, it's pretty much nil, right? So my expectation is going to be, to all those other things, right?
I think it's
Because
like
go ahead, Chris.
when you frame it that way, like it makes me think about it in terms of like that filtering mechanism. Like we're always trying to get feedback, and when you're in the middle of difficulty, knowing that you're there allows you to temper those expectations. And when you do it that way, you become far more effective at separating the signal and the noise. What you
Yeah.
need is information in order to identify and capitalize on the opportunity. And when you're in the middle of getting absolutely crushed by somebody like a Jimmy, a Jordan, or a Randy, your opportunity is not to try to win. Your opportunity is to show them that you know how to defend yourself, or show them that you've taken what they've taught you about shrimp escapes or about, you know, the appropriate way to protect your neck or whatever. Like that's how you generate good signal from all of the chaotic noise around you that represents the entirety of the difficulty.
Yeah. Well, it's also too, it's also a coaching perspective as well. Like, I'm not going to go destroy a white belt or a blue belt or a purple belt, right? I'm going to give them opportunity to work
Thank you.
their things so they can sort of break something
Or a
beautiful
brown
to them.
belt. Come on, bro.
But it's the truth though. Like I give people like plenty of opportunities to escape, right? To work, to do their thing, to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And because it does me no good to just destroy people, right? But if it's another black belt, then it's game on, and we're gonna go to the death, and we're gonna figure this stuff out. But like it's part of the learning process as well from the teaching side to be like, okay, I'm putting you in this bad situation. Can you work your way out? Or you get to a really good situation. Can I work my way out?
I mean, that's like a crystal clear example of tempering your expectations, right? Like
Mhm.
you go into a roll with a white belt, your expectation is I'm going to let them work because I know that if I put my full game into this, there's nothing like it's going to be frustrating for them. There's nothing they can do. And not that we
Yep.
don't petulantly do that every once in a while for our own sheer pleasure, you know,
Yeah.
but,
Just remind people.
and for the most part,
Chris, you don't try
They
that,
they
Jordan.
need to know what wrist locks are,
they
right?
got to know, they
That's
got
a
to
day
feel
one
it.
thing.
Yeah. I don't want them
Yeah.
to feel it in the wild when I'm not there to protect them.
Yeah.
Wrist locks are deadly in the street. They need to know how to defend them.
Or Chris, your triangle comment to me that time.
Oh my God. This is the best story ever. So for you listeners that don't know what jujitsu is, um, it is submission wrestling, right? Your entire goal, instead of just getting the pin, is to submit your opponent, which means that you put them in some sort of hold that compromises a joint where if that person were to squeeze hard, the joint would break, or you can cause them to pass out via a blood strangle. So I, as a white belt, am rolling with I think you had just gotten your brown belt, Jordan, and I remember vividly at the beginning of my white belt days being hit repeatedly with a specific submission called a triangle, which is a blood strangle. And there are about a zillion different ways to apply it from a zillion different types of positions. And Jordan has taken the time out of his Saturday and a special like session of training before class to just work with a couple of us for like an hour. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, you know what's funny is like I haven't been triangled by you in like a really long time. And Jordan like cocks his head like this to the side and goes, "Oh, interesting." And I don't know if you've seen that I forget which Jurassic Park it was, but you know the scene where like the T-Rex like rips the top off the car and kind of like cocks its head at its prey and it's like you're so fucked. That was the look in Jordan's eyes. And in 5 minutes, he set up, I think, like 8 different triangles on me. And by like number 4, I was just laughing, like nonstop laughing. I was like, I'm so utterly powerless. There's not a goddamn thing I can do. He's just playing with his food.
Yeah. And by the end, I was like,
Yeah.
is that good? Is that enough triangles for you?
I was like, yeah, I think my budget on getting triangled has been filled.
So I love that story. It never gets old. It's so funny because it's like so relatable, right? Like, oh, you know what hasn't happened? Bing, 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 bing.
It's like the same thing, like your kid walks up to you and they're like, "Oh, normally you ground me when I sass back to you." And you're like, "You're right. Go to your room."
Yeah. Thanks for the reminder, kid. So let's shift a little bit. We're gonna stay in the context, but I want to talk about um the idea of applying intentional resistance. So I think that this quote is probably the way that most of us would read it is we're relating it to ourselves in a situation that we find ourselves in a difficulty, right? And to try to try to be aware that the opportunity exists in that space. But those are like just things that come our way, right? Like and so in the example of unmet expectations or the example of ramped up resistance or pressure, you know, that backs up against anything, you know, that we're trying to do. But uh there's another side of that, right? There's the idea of introducing resistance intentionally. Um can you think of an example where, and I'm going to say non-jujitsu, just to give it a little spice, but can you think of a non-jujitsu example where you've intentionally applied extra pressure and the opportunity, you were able to capitalize on the opportunity that created?
Yep. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. There's one that comes to mind from when I was in college. I was a forlorn English lit major who had no idea what he wanted to do with his life, which is the natural condition of all English majors that you'll ever meet. And on a whim, I decided to take a journalism class and join the student newspaper. And we had a daily newspaper where I went to school. Um, and the only reason I signed up for the daily newspaper was because they had a requirement that you write 30 printed published stories in one semester. And I was
Mm.
like, I need to take on a little bit of difficulty in my life because I'm just feeling numb. And I love lit, I love creative writing, but I just don't get a sense of being and belonging with it. So I'm just going to give myself something hard to get done.
Mhm.
6 to 800 word stories in a 12 to 16 week run. Um, I wound up writing 72 and I broke a record at the school for the most in a
Good.
semester. And on the back of that, I went out for editor in chief and got it. And I was the first person to get it after just becoming a staff writer with one semester.
Wow.
Mhm.
And I look back on that story constantly. And when I was in the moment, it never once felt like I was approaching a big difficulty. It was a series of little difficulties that I was seeking out. And when I was like, oh, it's going to be impossible for me to meet a 600 word deadline in one day. What are you talking about? My writer has me going off and interviewing the campus police. I've never done hard news before. Okay, like whatever. If I get it wrong, it's that guy's quote, right? Then the next day, it's like, okay, now you need to go over and talk to the president of the university and get a quote on their new academic curriculum for the engineering department. Now you need to go over there and talk to the traffic administrator about the park and ride. And now you need to go talk to the women's soccer team. And it's like every little story was like another little difficulty that, when taken in totality, gave me such preparation for being able to handle big difficulties that I didn't seek out, that just showed up over
Mhm.
time. So I think it's probably one of the most valuable life lessons is seek the little difficulties so that you can prepare for the big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's well, first of all, a great story. That's awesome.
Thanks.
But I got this vision in my head of someone running hurdles, right? Because
Yeah.
I tend to think of my difficulties as being like a tidal wave that just is 30 feet high and just crushes you, and like right, and just washes you out to
Yeah.
sea.
Yeah.
But what you were describing was more like running flat and then jumping these hurdles occasionally, right? It wasn't a mountain size hurdle. It was, in this case, literally things that you found, oh, with this angle and with this speed, I can jump over this really
Yeah.
easy, right?
Mm.
Um, I think
And I
that's a
think
great analogy for different types of resistance.
it's easy to like trick yourself when you're in a difficult spot. Like the mind is very good at wildly inflating the resistance to your original expectation, where something can feel like a mountain when in reality it's a molehill. And I was just talking about this with my kids the other day, although it was in the context of doing your homework and a big project. The notion is the same. And I said, like, look, I understand that this is really stressful. And I don't want to do it either. I hated doing homework. But if you're looking at it as an elephant, you're never going to be able to eat it. So how do you eat an elephant then? One bite at a time. You just start. It doesn't matter where. Just take a bite, and that's
Yeah.
the beginning. And once you have it, that's the momentum you build on.
Yeah. And it's also knowing too, like procrastination is your worst enemy when it comes to stuff like that. Right? You would much rather start now and take little bites versus taking shovel-sized bites 2 weeks from now.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Well, and I mean, how many times have you started to dig in and got a mouthful and went, you know what? It turns out I don't want to eat this elephant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
obviously not in the context of your homework, because you don't
Right.
have a choice,
Yeah.
right? You got to do
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
homework, but
Yeah.
um, there's that, you know, uh, cost reward analysis
Yeah.
that you could do.
Mhm.
Right.
Like, how badly do I want the outcome of me eating this elephant
Yeah.
with such a large undertaking in front of me? Um, and I think that's probably a deterrent, right? So, which is a great segue into my next thought about this. Um, do you think that people are doing themselves a disservice by trying to avoid difficulty entirely all the time?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Unequivocally. Yes.
Unequivocally.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
You owe me a Coke.
jinx,
Yeah.
somebody else, somebody, something.
I'll
Because
pay
it
you in a week
seems
or two,
like
Chris.
Yeah.
Obviously, I
In
believe
a
in the
triangle
concept,
box.
right?
Yeah.
Obviously, I believe in the concept. It's the
Yeah.
name of the podcast, I believe very much in the sweetness that comes after difficulty of any kind. Um, you know, but that difficulty can easily be underestimated or overestimated, right? Again, tempering expectations. And so kind of what I heard you talking about, Chris, was what can we say about preparation and how that prepares us for difficulty, right? Because it kind of ties into the idea of actively choosing difficult things so that we can build resistance, or so that those opportunities will present themselves in a place where they're much more accessible to us, right? Because we have the right mindset about what the difficulty is. We're choosing it rather than having it chosen for us.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, what's that quote from Usain Bolt? Like, I trained years to run for 10 seconds or 6 seconds. Or it's like there's some quote about that. He says it. Like, I
Yeah.
think he actually said it before, Chris.
yeah, yeah.
Like he
I
trains
can't
for
recall the
years
exact.
for less than 10 seconds. Yeah. And
Yeah.
people, what is
Or
it too?
like
Like,
the
Or like the
when people.
Picasso story that Chris
yeah,
told, right?
exactly.
That's what I was just
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
say.
Well, and people
Yeah,
like, what
yeah,
is it?
yeah.
People, they admire the view and not the climb. Right. And nobody notices how many years you spent working towards something. They'll only see you at the top, or they only see you at your
Right.
successful point. Not all the work that went
People
into it.
people love the result, not the process.
Exactly.
I think
Yeah.
like one of the things that this reminds me of, like when you're asking about preparation, is that like it's so easy to assume that preparation is task relevant. I have to prepare for the task of running over hurdles. I have to prepare for the task of writing newspaper stories. And yes, of course, that's always going to be true. I think we should take that as like table stakes, but it also brings to mind the Roosevelt quote, like the only thing to fear is fear itself, which is to say the actual doing of the thing, the first action is not the hard part. It's convincing that your brain to not be afraid to take the first action. And once you can build out a sense of resilience to just taking an action, that in and of itself is the preparation. All right, I need to go run my 100-meter race and I'm racing Usain Bolt. There's no fucking way I'm going to win. What's the first thing I can do? Well, I'm going to go for like a 5-minute run today. As opposed to saying, I'm never going to win, so what's the fucking point? Well, it's not, I mean, you'll uncover the point. Like, just go out for the run. The task is there. No one's expecting you to beat him. Like, go run. Go do your little bit. Get started.
It's such a great idea too, because you think there's always someone better, right? There's always someone faster. What is the mindset? So maybe not just tempering expectations, but also tempering your mindset.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's
And it's not doing
an
the very,
amazing.
no, Chris, go. I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
Go ahead. Um, there's a there's an amazing story, video. I'll find it on YouTube and send it to you guys, and maybe we can try to put it in the show notes. Of a track and field coach, who's English, and he's training this little girl, to run the 100 meters, and they go in and they train for a little bit, and she's working really, really hard, and they go out to the first race, and she gets last place. She comes up sobbing. And she's like, everybody beat me. Everybody's better than me. I can't do this. I'm so ashamed. And the track coach is beaming. He is just full of pride because he said, You just PR'd. That's the fastest you've ever ran. I've been timing you in training this whole time, and you haven't even come close to that. I am so thrilled for you because of the process and the work that you put in, and you just obliterated your own goal. Like, my God, what improvement. And he tells the story about how her face changes a little bit and she begins to recognize that the value is in the process and not the outcome that other people have. And he goes, at the end, there's some version of like, you're not out here running against them. This is only you versus you. And I'm like, my God, that was just such a powerful way of framing everything because once you can release the notion of like comparing yourself against others, there's nothing more free. I don't have it. I wish I did, right? I would love to have it. But
right.
like what a great encouragement to sit there and go, it's just you versus you. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. We do, because we do have a tendency to do that. And even in a situation where you have an opportunity to encourage someone, you might not take it, but you don't realize,
Mhm.
what impact that could possibly make on somebody else. Even just
Yeah.
having someone who can see from outside give you a little bit of feedback and go, "Hey, like whatever you thought about that." Like I've had roles that I've walked away from, with Jordan or with Jimmy or with some of these guys who are just monsters. And I basically am just like, after it's over, I'm laying there in a pool of my own sweat and shame and just like thinking about crawling over to the side of the mat, and then I get over there and then a couple of guys will come over and they'll sit with me and they'll go, "Dude, that was amazing. Like that was ridiculous. How'd you last that long against Jordan trying to put that thing on you? Or
Yeah.
how'd you escape from that thing when Jimmy had you in this?" And it's like, yeah, you don't that's a missed
Yeah.
opportunity in the middle of the
Mhm.
difficulty, right? It's
Yeah.
a perfect analogy for this quote.
Yeah. I think though too, a lot of people wanna do the bare minimum and then want exceptional results. Like, and it's really interesting to me
Sure.
how you see these people who get really angry, like, "Oh, I did this." It's like everybody does that. Like, you show up to work 8 hours today. Like, you're not going above and beyond. And it's like, it reminds me of, like, that Goggins quote I have right here. "It's so easy to be great nowadays, my friend, because most people are weak. Most people don't wanna go the extra mile. They don't want to do what's extra because the extra mile sucks." And it's true. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
most things in life, if you do the bare minimum, you'll get the bare minimum, and you'll be stuck living the same thing, the same disappointing life over and over and over again because you're not willing to go above and beyond.
And like how much of that is you just sitting there going like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm ready for this.
Yeah.
So I need to get like a little bit more like I'm not
Yeah.
ready to run the extra mile yet. I haven't trained for it."
Yeah.
And it's like,
Or this is
yeah, but
comfortable.
are you
I
ever
like
gonna feel
comfortable.
ready?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Are you ever
what
gonna feel ready is a great
Yeah.
question, right? It's
Yeah.
a
right.
great
Or it's just
question.
comfort.
I
Comfort is your
mean,
coffin, right? Like it's that mentality of like, well, this is comfortable, this is known, so why I can just do this again. I can do this again. I can do this again. And it's like, and you end up living this life of disappointment. You look back and just go, wow, I could have had so much more, but I chose the comfortable route versus the route that was the unknown.
yep.
I also think it's an overestimation of our own abilities, right? Or, based off of false information or old outdated information. Um, Lack of updated testing, we're not getting in fights
Hmm.
as adults because we don't want to find out that we lost all our cardio and that we can't take a punch anymore like we used to and whatever. Like oh, you're not just gonna bounce back from it. So then we tend to be a little more avoidant of those things, but still walk around like, yeah, don't mess with me, bro. And you're like, well, like,
I'll do
okay,
what I want.
bring it to the
Yeah.
mat. Like, let's put it to the test, right? Like
Yeah.
let's test it. Um, I would be happy to help you temper both your expectations and your mindset
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
If you'd like to join me over here.
Yeah.
My
But
name
the
is
funny thing is though,
reality. I'd love to
yeah.
meet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is though, I love those new white belts though. Like those dudes who are in their mid 50s and they show up their first day. It's just like, welcome. This is gonna suck, but I'm glad you're here. Like, and if you can make it through the first
Yeah.
6 months, it gets a
I
lot better.
love,
Trust me. Yeah, I love it. I love those guys
Yeah.
when they
and it's
show
like
up.
that's the
Like,
kind of thing. Like there's so much. I think there's so much to be said for what it takes to gain humility. And like it's such a perfect like only in a jujitsu gym are you going to get the chance to see someone who's a 50-year-old accountant that was an athlete 35 years ago looking for something fun to do. And then you
yeah,
tell that person this is gonna suck for 6 months. And then they go, you see their head working, and you go, all right, I know what that means. I'm in.
yeah,
Like that person's great. And then you get the 22-year-old former high school wrestler who's like, I'm only here to beat the shit out of everybody in the room.
yeah,
And like they get so frustrated that they quit because there's no humility there
yeah.
for the other skills of the people in that same room. And it's like, that's perfect. Like a perfect dichotomy. From like
Hmm.
when you get that humility, man, it's so easy to recognize difficulty as an opportunity. Whereas if you don't have that sense of humility or you're unwilling to seek it out, every difficulty is a failure. There's no opportunity in it.
Perhaps the most valuable thing that the most valuable opportunity you can gain, right, is that ability to amass some more humility, um,
Yeah.
because that puts you more in a naturally lined up mindset with reality, right? Like
Yeah.
it's already there. If you think of yourself as only being able to achieve this, you might surprise yourself, as long as you don't use it as a limiting factor. And it's hard to think of an opportunity that would present itself like that in the absence of any sort of difficulty or resistance. You know, it's hard to imagine that you could even place
It has
value
to.
in that,
Yeah.
right? It has to.
Yeah.
It has to.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy to think of. It's crazy too because people are just naturally so averse to difficulty, right? Like you never and I'm not gonna say never, I guess that's too blanket of a statement, but we it seems to me that more often than not, we have a tendency to put negative connotations on difficulty rather than positive ones. But again, that could just be a matter of swapping out terms, right? If we say, if there's gonna be a lot of resistance in this thing I'm about to do, that doesn't sound nearly as like instantly defeating as this is gonna be hard, right? This is
Well,
gonna be
yeah.
difficult.
It's also like the measurement of time though, too. Like if you know it's gonna be hard for the next 6 months, like that first day, that first week, that first month is always way more difficult trying to build that momentum going versus and your routine and your structure and everything else versus like day one is always just the worst, right? Like jujitsu, you show up for the first 6 months, and by the end of that first 6 months, you have a routine. Like these are the classes I go to, these are the guys I see, these are the people I look forward to seeing, and you kind of like are building that momentum behind it. It's just that momentum is a hard thing to create when you're creating it from nothing. Like that's why I love to see people get their blue belt. Like it's the most
Yeah.
important belt to me to give is the blue belt because it's like because you've created something out of nothing. You've created a routine and a life out of absolutely nothing, and now you're going to build upon that going forward.
It's cool. Like I think like as a purple belt, it's interesting for me and cool for me to see people get their blue belts now because I'm still close enough to it that I have a lot of like direct experience, but also a little bit far enough away to recognize that gap between a first 6 months white belt and someone who's knocking on the door of getting their blue. And it's really cool to see the mindset when that like stereotype
Mhm.
plays against the same set of difficulty. Like we could do a game that's like, all right, you need to pass your opponent and pin them for 3 seconds, and a white belt's just going to get, first 6 month white belt gets tossed, they're like, oh man, how do I do this? And like maybe frustrated or maybe confused or maybe out of breath or whatever it is, and then the guy that's knocking on the door, a blue belt, same exact outcome, gets tossed, can't pin. And then as they're walking back to the wall, they're like, okay, I think I made up this mistake, or maybe they were grabbing this grip or whatever. It's like the difficulty is the same, but the
Mhm.
definition of the opportunity coming out of that difficulty is far different.
No, 100%. And I think Jordan made the point earlier, right? But it's a scale too. You know, it's there's a just like everybody's going to interpret it differently, right? You and I go into a hard roll and we roll for 5 minutes. Both of us experienced a different difficult situation, right?
Mhm.
With different variables involved in both of those. The best possible scenario out of that is that we both walk away with some more humility and we both walk away with a little more confidence and we both have learned something, right?
Yeah.
But again, the application of that and the mindset and the expectations, they have to be tempered to set you up for success. Because if you think of every difficulty as a crushing thing, you'll just avoid them and then you won't ever have access to those opportunities that could be the difference. Like, Jordan and I have been talking about it this week. Before like literally a different human being than before I started doing jujitsu, like literally a different person.
Yeah.
Like my brain thinks differently, my body moves differently, my, like my understanding of myself and of the reality of life and of other people's abilities and all those things. It has been so refined and so, sharpened in my brain, my awareness. Um, that had almost zero chance of happening without the difficulty of jujitsu in my life, right? It had
Mhm.
almost zero chance of that. Um, I got lucky, I think, that I was able to temper my mindset, because you see people that don't, and then they're gone. Uh, but I think it also speaks to why it's important, Jordan, like you're talking about that discipleship, right? That taking
Mhm.
someone under your wing and going, hey,
Mhm.
um, I know this sucks. Like, trust me, I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't go through what you're going through right now. And just having that ability to relate to someone will help them temper those expectations. At the end of everyone's first class, I always come up to them and go, did you have fun? Oh yeah, man, I had fun. Okay, well, keep coming back. It gets more fun. Right? Like,
Mhm.
emphasize the opportunities, the possibility for opportunities, rather than emphasizing the
Mhm.
difficulty.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Man, what a fun conversation. What a great way to wrap that one up and put a ribbon on it. I knew this concept was going to be fun to talk about, but I'm always a little bit surprised by the perspective I gain, right? There's always like this little bit at the end where I'm like chewing on everything we just talked about. I'm like, oh man, like that's interesting. I didn't think about that before. Or I feel like I have a better understanding of a part of myself now. Um, I hope that you all got a chance to listen to the episode we released last week, because it was another one of those amazing conversations that just really lends itself well to enhancing and improving and expanding your perspective. So if you have not had a chance and you're wrapping up this episode, go check out last week's episode, number 27. Just a really amazing, fun, and perspective giving conversation that we
Mhm.
really enjoyed having. So we hope you enjoy listening to it. But just a reminder as we wrap this up for everyone, we do this every Friday on Spotify and Rumble, noon Pacific. Please go like the channel, set your notifications to get notified whenever we drop one of these. We try to keep them consistent, and we'd love to have you as part of our community. Every time you come up to us and say something about an episode, or you make a comment, or you send us a message, it's just building our perspective and helping us to have better and deeper conversations. So I want to extend my gratitude, as always, as every week I do, not only to Chris and Jordan, but to you, dear listener, for tuning in and listening, for being part of the conversations, and for actively being part of our community. I really, this is a special thing, and I really am grateful that you're here. So until next week, until we have another amazing conversation, this has been Sweeter After Difficulty. Jordan, Chris, thank you so much. Everybody out there, we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thanks, man.